It was one of those evenings where the rain doesn't just fall, it drowns everything. The kind of night where the sound of the storm feels endless, like static that eats at your thoughts. I left work later than usual, and by the time I stepped out of the building, the parking lot was already slick with water, reflecting the dim glow of streetlights like broken glass. My jacket clung to me the second I dashed across to my car. The air smelled of wet asphalt and damp earth, thick and heavy with that electric tension storms always carry. Driving home in weather like that was usually calming for me. The hum of the engine, the rhythmic swish of wipers, and the cocoon of the car's interior gave me a strange sense of safety. But that night, something was different. The roads were nearly deserted. Just the occasional blur of headlights cutting across the downpour before disappearing again into the curtain of rain. The storm muffled everything outside, but at the same time, it made me feel like I was inside some endless tunnel of noise. At first, the commute was normal enough. I drove the same route I always did out of the city, through a stretch of back roads, and then finally into the small neighborhood where I lived. But when I made the turn onto that long, wooded stretch of road, I noticed the first thing that unsettled me. There was a pair of headlights in my rear view mirror. I didn't think much of it at first. Cars take that route all the time. But after a few minutes, I realized the headlights stayed exactly the same distance behind me. No matter how much I adjusted my speed, if I slowed, they slowed. If I sped up, they did too. The rain was pouring so hard that visibility was low, but I could still see enough to notice the way the beams seemed unnervingly steady. No swaying, no weaving, just locked on me. I tried to shake the feeling. Told myself it was just a coincidence. Someone going the same way. Nothing unusual, but then I took a turn down a narrower road, a shortcut I use when traffic is bad. Hardly anyone takes it. And when I glanced in the mirror, those headlights followed. A cold pressure formed in my chest. I remember how my fingers tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles white. I told myself I was being paranoid. But the rain didn't let me shake the thought. It hammered harder, trapping me in this endless stretch of dark road and trees. I flicked on the defroster. My windshield had begun to fog up from my own nervous breathing. The smell of wet fabric and my damp jacket filled the car. My stomach churned. For 10 minutes, that car stayed behind me. 10 long, drawn-out minutes where every second dragged like an hour. I tried something, then I'd slowed down to nearly a crawl. The car behind me slowed. 2. That was the moment I knew. It wasn't just coincidence. Whoever was back there was following me. My heart pounded in my ears. Drowning out the rain for a moment, I didn't know what to do. If I pulled over, they could stop too. If I kept going home, they'd know where I lived. The thought made my skin crawl. I tried to breathe steadily, to think logically. Maybe they were just lost. Maybe they just happened to be heading the same way. But deep down, every instinct screamed otherwise. The storm made it worse. With each flash of lightning, the woods on either side of the road leapt into clarity for just a second. Wet tree trunks, dripping branches, the distorted shapes of shadows, and then vanished again into darkness. I started to feel like I wasn't just being followed. I was being herded. That thought terrified me more than anything else. The rain blurred the world, just into streaks of gray and black. My wipers struggled to keep up. Every time I checked the mirror, those headlights were there. Same distance, same steady pace. Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, they were gone. I turned down another side road, my stomach flipping with dread, and when I looked back again, the lights had vanished. I should have felt relieved, but I didn't. Instead, the absence of those headlights made the night feel heavier. I couldn't explain it, but the emptiness behind me felt worse than the pursuit, like something was still there. Something I couldn't see anymore. Asterisk, I should have driven straight home. Every part of me knew that. But even after the headlights disappeared, my nerves were shot. My hands still trembled against the steering wheel, and I couldn't stop glancing at the mirror, half expecting those lights to reappear. So when I spotted the faint neon glow of a convenience store up ahead, I made the split-second decision to pull in. I told myself I needed a drink, maybe some snacks. In truth, I just needed to breathe around other people. even strangers. I needed proof that I wasn't alone in this storm. The lot was nearly empty. Just one old pickup parked near the side. Rain hammered the metal roof of the awning, dripping steady streams onto the pavement. I parked close to the entrance, shut off the engine, and sat for a moment in the dark. The buzzing neon sign flickered open in faded red letters. The sound was faint but sharp, cutting through the muffled roar of the rain. I stepped out, jacket pulled tight, shoes splashing into shallow puddles. The storm swallowed everything beyond the edges of the lot. Trees swayed violently in the wind, their black silhouettes bending like shadows that wanted to reach closer. Inside, the store was dim. The bell above the door gave a weak jingle, and then the door shut behind me, sealing out the rain. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Convenience stores always have noise music playing low. Chatter from a clerk, the faint hum of conversation, something. But here, nothing. Just the steady buzz of fluorescent lights overhead and the louder-than-usual hum of the refrigerators along the back wall. The air was stale, almost sour, like it hadn't been ventilated in a long time. A faint smell of damp cardboard lingered near the aisles, mixing with something metallic I couldn't quite place. "Hello?" I called out, stepping forward. My voice sounded too loud in the emptiness. No answer. I walked further in, my shoes squeaking faintly on the tile. Rows of snacks stretched before me, chips, candy. Bottled drinks, but they all looked strangely untouched, like props on a set. Dust clung to the corners of the shelves. The further I went, the stronger the weight in my chest grew. That's when I heard it. A sound at first. I thought it was just the storm leaking in. But no, the rain outside was steady, constant. This was different. A faint shuffling, somewhere deeper in the store. It stopped as soon as I froze. I stood there, heart hammering, straining to listen. The buzzing lights above me seemed louder than ever, like they were covering something up. I slowly walked down one aisle, trying to look casual, but my eyes darted toward every shadow. When I reached the counter, I expected to see anyone, but it was empty. The chair was pushed back, the register sitting silent. The small bell sat waiting to be rung. The silence clung to me, heavy and unnatural. I pressed the bell once. Its sharp ding echoed through the store. Bouncing off the aisles, no one came. For a moment, I almost convinced myself I was alone, that maybe the clerk had stepped out, maybe into the back. But then I heard it again, that faint breathing, slow, steady, deliberate, not my own. I felt it more than I heard it, like the air shifted with each inhale. My throat tightened. Every instinct screamed at me not to turn around, but I did, and of course, nothing was there, just the same aisles. The same dim shelves. I tried to shake it off, but the weight of being watched pressed harder and harder on me. My skin prickled, my palms damp with sweat. I grabbed a bottle of water and a pack of chips, forcing myself to act normal, set them on the counter. Still no one came. That was when the hum of the refrigerator sputtered for just a second. The lights above flickered, and in that fraction of a second of darkness, I swear I saw movement, something tall. Shifting near the back wall, the lights came back, steady again, and the aisle was empty. But the air wasn't. The breathing was closer now. Right behind the counter. I didn't wait. I left the items, turned, and walked fast, too fast, to be casual toward the door. The bell jingled weakly as I pushed it open, and the storm swallowed me whole again. The parking lot was empty now. The old pickup I'd seen earlier was gone. I climbed into my car, locking the doors immediately, chest heaving. My windshield fogged instantly from my own panicked breath, and in the glass for just a moment, I thought I saw something behind me inside the store, a shadow standing perfectly still. Framed in the doorway's glow, watching me as I sped away into the rain. By the time I finally pulled into my driveway, my nerves were shredded. The rain hadn't let up, it pounded the roof of my car like fists, rushing down the windshield in thick sheets that made my house look blurred and distorted, as if it wasn't really mine anymore. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm down. The glow from the street lamp at the end of the block flickered, throwing jagged shadows across the wet pavement. The neighborhood looked different in the storm, distorted, almost hollow. Forced myself out of the car and jogged to the porch, fumbling with my keys. My clothes clung to me, soaked and heavy. The air smelled of wet leaves and damp wood. Inside, the house greeted me with darkness. The storm must have knocked the power out. The clocks on the microwave and oven were dead. The room swallowed in shadow. I lit a couple of candles I kept in a drawer, their flames unsteady in the draft that seemed to creep through the walls. Normally, my home felt safe, warm. But that night it felt like I was standing in someone else's house. The rain battered the windows relentlessly. The glass shuddered with each gust of wind. I tried to distract myself, changed into dry clothes, made a cup of tea on the gas stove, sat in the living room with the faint glow of the candles. The storm had always been background noise to me, something comforting. But as I sat there, it didn't comfort me anymore. It only amplified the silence in the house. That's when I saw it at first. It was nothing, just movement in the corner of my eye. I turned, expecting to see the branches outside the window swaying with the storm. But instead, for less than a second, I thought I saw a figure standing there, just outside. Beyond the glass, tall, still, watching. My breath hitched, my throat going dry. I blinked hard, trying to focus through the streaks of rain on the window. But when I looked again, there was nothing there. Just the distorted shapes of the trees, twisting in the storm. I told myself it was a trick of the light, my mind playing games after everything that had already happened. But even after convincing myself, I couldn't shake the feeling. I started avoiding the windows. Every time I walked past one, I felt it, that crawling sensation across my skin. Like eyes on me from just beyond the glass, I set another candle down on the table, the flame flickering against the windowpane, and for a moment I swore the shadows stretched too far. Longer than they should have. Hours dragged on. The house groaned under the weight of the storm. Water dripped steadily from somewhere near the back door. At one point, the power flickered. The lights came on just long enough to make me flinch before they died again, leaving me with only the weak candlelight. And then, just as I started to settle into the silence again, he saw it a second time. This time, clearer, a figure outside the living room window, standing perfectly still in the downpour. It was too quick to make out details. But I know what I saw. A shape. Human. Unmoving. By the time I scrambled for the flashlight and aimed it at the glass, there was nothing there. The rain lashed against the window. The trees bent under the wind. But the space was empty. My heart thundered in my chest, so loud it drowned out the storm for a moment. I told myself again it wasn't real, that I was tired, that the storm was messing with me, but no matter how I tried to rationalize it, I couldn't ignore the truth burning at the back of my mind. Someone was out there watching, waiting, and if I stared too long into that storm, I felt like they'd be right there again, just on the other side of the glass. Asterisk, asterisk. The storm didn't ease. If anything, it felt heavier as the night dragged on. Each gust of wind rattled the siding of the house, and the rain struck the windows with such force I thought the glass might crack. Normally, that kind of weather lulled me to sleep. But that night, it did the opposite. It amplified every sound in the house, every creak and groan, until I couldn't tell what was the storm and what wasn't. After sitting in the living room far too long, staring at the flicker of candlelight, I decided to head upstairs. Maybe lying down would trick my body into resting, even if my mind wouldn't. Flashlight in hand, I started up the steps. Halfway up, I froze. The stairs creaked under my weight, and then, a second later, I heard another creak, but not from beneath me, from above. It was subtle, almost hidden under the storm's roar, but it was there. A soft groan of wood, as though someone else had shifted their weight on the upper floor. I stood perfectly still, every muscle in my body locked. My breath caught in my throat. For a long time I just listened. The rain hammered on, the house groaned, but there was nothing else. And yet, the The silence above me wasn't empty. It felt aware, like whatever was up there knew I was listening. Finally, I forced myself to keep moving, one step at a time. The beam of my flashlight trembling in my hand. The upstairs hallway stretched before me, long and shadowed. Every door was closed. The smell of damp wood filled the air, carried in by drafts through the old windows. My shadow stretched unnaturally across the walls as the flashlight shook. I told myself to open the bedroom door, crawl into bed, and forget everything. But my eyes kept darting to the other doors. The bathroom, the spare room, the attic door at the end of the hall, every one of them shut tight. I had the overwhelming sense that if I opened even one, something would be waiting. Not moving. Not speaking. Just waiting. The silence pressed harder against me. A silence so deep it made my ears ring. I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped quickly into my bedroom and shut the door, locking it out of pure instinct. Inside, I set the flashlight on the nightstand and slid under the blankets. Heart still racing, the storm raged on outside, wind howling through the trees, rain slapping hard against the windows. But all I could hear was the silence. Upstairs, listening, breathing, patient. Asterisk, I couldn't sleep. I tried. But every time I closed my eyes, my mind replayed the faint creak upstairs. The shadow at the window, the breathing in the store. It all tangled together until I couldn't tell if I was remembering things or imagining them. The rain never let up. It pounded against the windows, a constant, unrelenting wall of sound. Normally, I loved that kind of storm. That night, it felt suffocating. Like it was sealing me inside the house, cutting me off from the world. Finally, I reached for my phone. The battery was low, barely clinging to 20%, and the storm had killed most of my signal. Still, I managed to pull up my contacts and tapped the name of a close friend. When she answered, relief washed over me. Her voice was warm, familiar, grounding. I told her I was fine, just a little spooked by the storm. I tried to laugh about it, blaming my nerves on too much caffeine. There's too many horror stories online. But as I spoke, I realized I was talking too fast, words tumbling out in a rush. My voice cracked when I mentioned the car that had followed me. The empty store, the shadow at the window. There was a pause on the line. She started to respond, her voice calm, reassuring. But then mid-sentence, the sound broke apart, static. At first I thought it was just the signal, the storm interfering. But as I pressed the phone harder to my ear, the static shifted. It wasn't random. There was something in it, a sound beneath the crackle. Low and deliberate, breathing slow, heavy. I froze, heart hammering in my chest, straining to hear, then dash words, faint, distorted, as though dragged through water. Don't. Look. Behind you. My blood ran cold. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, staring straight ahead into the dim candlelight. My body refused to move. I didn't dare. The line went dead. My phone screen froze, then flickered, then went black. Battery gone. The room around me felt colder. My skin prickled, the hairs on the back of my neck standing straight. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't even blink because all I could think about was the voice, and the possibility that it wasn't coming from the phone at all, that maybe it was already. Inside the room with me, behind me, waiting, behind me, waiting. After the call died, the house felt like a tomb. No light from my phone. No signal. Only the dim flicker of the candle on the nightstand. Shadows stretching and twitching across the walls with every draft. The storm had shifted. The rain was softer now, but the wind had turned sharper, rattling the siding like fingers tapping insistently. The silence inside felt thicker because of it, heavy. Pressing against my ears, I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the dead phone, telling myself over and over to calm down, to breathe, to think rationally. That was when I heard it, a sound from the hallway. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, with the storm playing tricks. But then it came again. Deliberate footsteps, soft, slow, and steady. Not mine, not above me this time. In the hallway, right outside my door, I froze, my entire body locking up. The hairs on my arms rose. I could feel my pulse in my throat. One step, pause, another, pause. The sound was too distinct. It's too human to be anything else. I stared at the crack beneath the door. No shadows moved there, but I could hear the faintest shift of weight on the old floorboards. Whatever was out there had stopped. Right on the other side, I held my breath, straining to hear past the blood rushing in my ears. My mouth had gone dry, my palms slick with sweat. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, very faintly, I caught a smell, damp, metallic, like wet earth mixed with rust. It seeped under the door into the room. Curling up around me, my heart hammered so hard I thought it would break my ribs. I reached for the flashlight with a shaking hand, but I couldn't make myself turn it on. Some instinct deep inside me screamed not to shine a light another step. But this time, it was further away, retreating slowly. The footsteps faded down the hallway until the house was silent again. I stayed frozen, sitting on the bed, every muscle trembling, staring at the door. I don't know how long I sat like that. Minutes, maybe an hour. Finally, I worked up the courage to move. I slid off the bed, bare feet touching the cold floor, and crept toward the door. My breath was shallow, my body trembling. I placed my ear against the wood. Nothing, just silence. I unlocked it slowly and opened it a crack. The hallway was empty, no movement, no sound, but the smell was still there, faint, damp, metallic, like something had been standing there. Just long enough to leave its scent behind. Asterisk, by the time the footsteps faded, dawn should have been close. But the night seemed endless. Every second stretched thin, drawn out like it didn't want to end. Sleep was impossible. My nerves were too frayed, my body too tense. I gave up lying in bed and wandered the house instead. Flashlight in hand, every step echoing too loud in the silence. That was when I noticed it. The basement door it was, open just slightly, a dark gap yawning at the bottom of the stairs. I never leave it open. Ever. My chest tightened. The smell hit me first. That same damp, metallic odor that had lingered in the hallway, stronger now, spilling up from below. Like wet soil, cold stone, and the faint bite of rusted iron. I stood there in the hallway, staring at the crack. The flashlight beam trembled in my hand, sliding over the doorframe. I should have closed it, locked it. Pretended I never saw it, but I couldn't. Something about that darkness pulled at me, as if daring me to look. I crept forward, heart pounding, and placed my hand on the knob. The wood was damp beneath my palm, cold enough to sting. The smell grew stronger. My throat tightened, my stomach twisting. Then a sound, faint, almost too faint to hear over the storm outside. A voice, muffled, rising from deep below. At first I thought it was the pipes, the storm, anything logical. But no, this was different. The cadence was wrong. Too deliberate. It wasn't words at first. More like a rhythm. A low murmur, carrying up the steps, warped by distance. I leaned closer, straining to hear, and then I realized it was speaking. Not loudly, not clearly, but speaking. I couldn't make out the words. I couldn't even tell if it was one voice or several. They wove together, broken, distorted. But I knew one thing with certainty. It knew I was there, because the moment I pressed my ear closer, the sound stopped. Dead silence. The kind that doesn't just fill the air, it waits. I stumbled back, nearly dropping the flashlight. My chest heaved, breath shallow and panicked. The basement yawned open, black and endless, and I swear for a moment I felt the air shift, like something was moving closer, slowly up the stairs. I slammed the door shut, twisting the lock with shaking hands, backing away until my shoulders hit the wall. The silence held no footsteps, no sound, but that smell, that wet, metallic scent clung to the air long after I turned away. Asterisk by the time the basement door shut. I thought I'd reached the worst of it. I told myself I just had to wait until morning. Morning would mean light, normalcy, safety. But morning never came, at least. Not in the way it should have. The hours stretched on, and when I finally looked outside, the storm was still raging. Dark clouds pressed heavy against the windows, refusing to let the dawn through. The rain lashed harder than before. The trees bent against the screaming wind. It felt wrong, unnatural, like the night wasn't going to. I sat in the living room with my dead phone, the useless flashlight and the half-burned candle that guttered with every draft. My nerves were shredded raw. Every creak in the house made me flinch. Every shadow felt like it leaned closer when I blinked. That was when the knocking started. Not loud. Not frantic. Just steady. 3 knocks. On the basement door. I froze, staring down the dark hallway. The sound echoed, soft but deliberate. I wanted to believe it was the storm, the wind rattling something loose. But no, the rhythm was too precise, too human. Knock, knock, knock. The air thickened, pressing down on my chest. That smell seeped back, stronger this time, rolling through the hallway like invisible smoke. Damp earth. Metallic temps. Decay hidden beneath it all. My body screamed at me to leave, to run out into the storm barefoot if I had to. But I couldn't move. My legs were cement. My throat was sandpaper. The knocks came again, slower this time. Almost. Patient, and then silence. The kind of silence that feels alive. I inched forward. Each step heavier than the last, the floor groaning under my weight. My candle flickered and died, leaving me in pure darkness. I couldn't see the door anymore. Only the outline of the hallway, washed in faint lightning from the storm outside. Another knock. But this time, not from the basement, from the front door. 3 knocks. Measured, intentional. My chest tightened as my mind spun. The basement door. The front door. Both of them. Both waiting, thunder cracked, shaking the walls. And then the unmistakable sound of the basement. Locks sliding open. Slow. Metal grinding against metal. My breath caught. My hands shook violently as I backed away, searching blindly for anything, a weapon. Light something. The front door rattled. The knob turned. And just as the wind howled through the house, blowing the curtains inward, both doors creaked open at once. Darkness spilled and heavy. Absolute. And in it, I swear I heard breathing. Close. Too close. Right behind me. The story ends here, because I never saw what stepped through. I never saw what stepped through.